they've realized that when people are comfortable, then they can agitate. So the game is to make sure people are super uncomfortable and are distracted. Let's say look at the past 2 years. The government comes up with a NIN policy and says if you're Nigerian and you don't have the NIN, that's like the national identity number, they're going to cut off your phone lines and all that. And then we spent months, or they spent months, I already had mine, queuing up to get their NINs so they don't lose their phones. And then, what's crazy? Then they kept making deadlines and shifting deadlines. Nothing came out of that. They didn't block anybody's phone lines and nothing happened. And yes, of course, then there was the BVN. And then like this year alone, we've had the money policy. They redesigned the naira, took away 2.3 trillion naira out of circulation and injected only 500 billion. So there's a cash crunch, and every day people go to queue up in banks and they spend hours just waiting. They spend hours just waiting in the banks, hoping that for some strange reason you're able to get in, and then you can only withdraw a small amount of money. The ATMs don't work. If you have to use the POSs to withdraw money, you have to pay for it. People pay 4,000 naira to withdraw 10,000. So you look at it now. The BVN thing has happened. I mean, the cash crunch thing is happening now. The elections are happening. So it's always one thing happening, and then when you think that thing is over, they bring something else that is distracting people, keeping people uncomfortable, impoverishing people. Because, like, how do you work? How do you work? You earn 10,000 naira at the end of the day, but you can only take home 6,000 because you have to pay somebody 4,000 to give you. Like, that doesn't even make any sense. And yet, we have a government in this country and they don't care. You know, they don't care about anything whatsoever. Look at what's happened with INEC. Look at what's happening with the elections coming up on Saturday. You have thugs attacking opposition parties. You have thugs making videos to tell people that if you're not going to vote for our party, don't come out. You come out, we'll kill you. And we have a police force that is not interested. So I
How
think
can we survive in a country like that?
because, like I said at the beginning, we don't have a country. What we have is we live in a business venture. It's like living in a video game. We live in a video game. That's kind of what Nigeria is like.
Kind of
Only
a
the
virtual reality.
Yes, only it's controlled by some other persons whom we don't know. We're just characters in the game. And then you know how characters keep wishing. It's like, like a car race. You keep wishing you win all the races, but every now and then you crash and your car burns and the person dies, then the game is over, then you have to go start again. That's kind of like what living in Nigeria is like. We keep running a race we can't win. We keep fighting a battle we can't overcome. And somehow we just remain hopeful that maybe if we did things right, that at some point things are going to improve. So our founding fathers, they were negotiating for the chance to rule over a country. But then they forgot that the colonialists, the West, was not interested in ruling us. They're just interested in our resources and in protecting their interests in this country. And as long as they're able to get the oil, the gold, the tin, the columbite, the rubber, the cocoa, and the rest of that, the oil palm, they'll be happy. And unfortunately, even if we were in a state of war, they will still mine their oil and take it away. So
Because they have a strategy for it. And we
yes,
don't.
no, yeah, of course. So anyhow we look at it, we're still going to lose anyways. And then should you become like a militant or begin to fight, you'd become a terrorist. They'll label you a terrorist. And then they would actually commit a small fraction of their resources to keep you fighting, just enough so they can keep stealing what they're stealing. Because you look at the oil stolen from Nigeria, you know it's not common people who steal the oil. It only takes the government to be able to make that amount of movement, take away that amount of resource and not track it and not penalize anyone for it because the people who run the government benefit from it. So if Nigerians are thinking or waiting for a time when they can find out the president stole $10 billion. That's not going to happen. They don't need to steal your allocation money because that's money they borrowed. That one is for their aides to steal. For them, they are taking it straight from the source. As long.
In a situation like that, how could
Yeah,
people find solution? Looking at Nigeria, looking at the type of people that you have, looking at the condition that they live in, looking at the circumstances that is coming in, looking at who is interested in the Nigerian natural resources, how could the people ever free themselves from this quagmire?
I think first we need to change our constitution, which is something Zeke fought for. But I think they just imagine that if they had power to rule, that then everything would be fine. But we need to renegotiate what this entity Nigeria is. We need to renegotiate what happens to our resources. Who do the resources belong to? This system of government, where we have a strong central government and weak federating units at the states and local governments, is not sustainable and it's no longer suitable. What we need is to have the states as independent, as sovereign. We want to have the states as as real federating units, and then have a very weak center. Resource control should belong to the states. And that way, when it's one person in control of all the oil, it's easy to do business with whomever. But then when the oil is controlled by all the states, Enugu has oil, Edo has oil, Anambra has oil, Rivers, Bayelsa, Akwa Ibom, everybody has some oil. Then I'm sure some would want to go with indigenous companies, or at least negotiate with different Western powers for who would give them the best deal, assuming we decide that we're not fit or that we're not ready to mine our resources on our own. Because you come to it, like, this is really heartbreaking that a country that's the sixth highest oil producing nation in the world cannot operate a refinery. We don't have one single refinery. All the petroleum products that we use in Nigeria, starting from aviation fuel to kerosene to diesel, are all imported. And we're the sixth highest oil producing country in the world. Like, that's about the most shameful thing I can ever think about. The amount of money we spend on subsidy in a year is enough to build 4 refineries, actually. But we've never really thought in that area. And all the governments who have said that when we come, we're going to change this, we'll remove subsidy, we do this, we do that, that. They all come in and then they end up repeating exactly what their predecessors did. So it's a very hopeless situation. But I hope renegotiating what Nigeria is and how we want to continue going forward is a really good place to start. If we need to split up this country into different federating units that will have some level of autonomy and independence, good. If we're going to divide Nigeria into smaller countries, that's even fantastic. But if we're going to stick together, the way the system of government we run has to go. The least we can have is maybe a parliamentary system or something else. But this presidential system of government we have, first, I don't think we're ready for it. Two, I don't think it's working for us. And number three, I think it's too attractive for criminals, and they will do anything in their power to get in. One simple fact that I've known for a while that drives me crazy every time I think about it is that before Nigeria became a property of the British government, it used to belong to a company called the Royal African Company, I think, and then eventually became the Niger Royal Company. And that company that acquired Nigeria forcefully and sold it to the British government still operates in Nigeria till today, and it's called Unilever. A lot of household things we use, from detergents to food products, sardines, and all sorts of stuff they have hundreds of different products that they make, and they bring it to Nigeria and they sell to us. Because from their history back in the days when they bought Nigeria, they were a trading company. That's what they've always been. So they bring their goods, they come, they sell, and then they buy what we have, and then they take back. And we still have that company existing and operating in Nigeria. And the we don't know the history of the, like, when I stumbled across this piece of history, I was shocked to my bones. Like, how could we have allowed this to happen? This is the first company we're supposed to banish from ever trading in Nigeria ever again. But then they are part of the foreign interest in Nigeria that cannot be touched. So I think we're still always been.
You see, Marco, this is what I was saying before, that the contracts where the colonialists actually ended and where we took over, that the transition is something that is very important for us to understand. Because if we don't understand how we ended there, how we became so-called free, I don't think we are free. I was talking to the guy I interviewed today about Marcus Garvey. I was saying, well, in Africa, when Marcus Garvey was born, and of course he became prominent and he was doing what he was doing, even at that time, Africa was still not free.
Yeah.
Even till date as I speak, 2023, Africa is still not free. So when they say, for example, in Nigeria, we are talking of the Biafra, we are talking of the Igbo, the Hausa, the North and South dichotomy. These are not the issue. When they
Yes.
talk of the Boko Haram, it is not the issue. The issue is something completely different. It is based on the very foundation of the country. What kind of country did we have? That is why I think whatever the founding father have decided or have negotiated for is important that we understand. Because power speaks to power. As far as the Europeans are concerned, they don't even have anybody to speak to in Nigeria. We are all children.
Yes, loud and clear.
So this is the thing that is really annoying at the end of the day, because we need to look for a way to, like you were saying, renegotiate the contract, because it is very important.